Katt Williams sat on that Club Shay Shay couch and laid everything out so clearly that you could spot the warning signs from a mile away. Back then, people brushed him off as bitter. They accused him of being jealous. They labeled him a hater without hesitation. But you won't believe this, because now Kevin Hart is on Instagram taking shots at his own community and calling people lazy for simply trusting what they can clearly see.
To tell us about his ass. Katt sat on the Club Shay Shay stage and spelled it out in letters we could read from space. And we called him bitter. We called him jealous. We called him a hater. And now Kevin Hart is on Instagram calling us lazy for believing our own eyes.
People watched it happen with their own eyes. But before we get into all of this, you need to understand what we're really looking at here, because this goes far beyond your typical Hollywood feud. This isn't just another celebrity clash making headlines. This isn't simply a roast that crossed the line. This is the result of years of tension finally reaching a breaking point. Katt Williams laid it all out with specifics, on camera, in front of millions watching around the world, and the internet tore him apart for it. They called him crazy, they said he was washed up, they labeled him bitter. And now, almost unbelievably, everything he warned people about seems to be unfolding right in front of everyone in real time. And Kevin Hart's answer, after finding himself under scrutiny? He jumped on Instagram and accused his own community of being lazy. Think about that for a second while we take this story all the way back to where it started. Let's rewind to the roast. Kevin Hart, Netflix, his name in the spotlight, his production company running things behind the scenes, his event, his evening. And inside that room, Tony Hinchcliffe took the stage and turned George Floyd's name into material for a joke. A man whose death shocked the world, who cried out for his mother while a knee pressed against his neck, and who became a symbol for a movement that reached across the globe. That man's name ended up being used as part of a comedy routine during Kevin Hart's Netflix event. And the cameras captured Kevin Hart's response. He laughed. Naturally, people immediately focused on the George Floyd joke, but there was another moment from that night that didn't receive nearly as much attention at first, and some would argue it was even more disturbing. Shane Gillis stepped on that stage and made a joke involving lynching directed at Kevin Hart, a black man, in front of a live Netflix audience. And the term lynch was delivered so casually, as though it was just another punchline meant to get laughs.
The George Floyd joke was unnecessary. It was the lynching joke for me. Why are you even saying the word lynch? When we lynch Kevin, Kevin Hart's so short, when we lynch him, we got to use a bonsai tree. Lynch him? If I had a went and was in the audience just watching, there would be viral footage of me getting the fuck up and walking the fuck out. You know?
No. For me, it wasn't even the George Floyd joke that stood out the most. It was the lynching joke. Seriously, why is that even a word you're comfortable throwing around? The joke was that Kevin Hart is so short that when they lynch him, they would need a bonsai tree. Lynch him. And trust me, if I had been sitting in that audience just as a spectator, there would have been viral clips everywhere of me standing up and walking straight out. That's a line you simply don't cross in my book. So what was Kevin Hart's response after the roast? After the George Floyd joke, after the lynching joke, after Black Twitter began raising real questions about what went down on that stage? He appeared on The Breakfast Club and brushed it all off by saying, "We move on." And then, and this is where things really started to unravel, he jumped onto Instagram and shared something that had people rereading it 2 or 3 times because they couldn't believe what they were seeing.
He said, and I'm quoting this man directly, he said, "We are living in crazy times. Truth no longer matters, and it's pretty damn funny. Nobody does research. Everyone just assumes and runs with the narrative of clickbait." Kevin, baby, what research did we need to do? We watched the video. We saw George Floyd's name get turned into a punchline on your stage by a white man. We saw you laughed at it.
Kevin Hart took to Instagram, and I'm telling y'all, I had to read that post 3 separate times because the first time around, I genuinely thought I must have read it wrong. He wrote, We're living in some wild times. Facts don't seem to matter anymore, and honestly, it's kind of crazy. Nobody researches anything. People just grab on to clickbait narratives and run with them. But Kevin, seriously, what exactly were people supposed to research? Viewers watched the footage. They saw George Floyd's name turned into a joke on your stage by a white comedian. They saw your reaction to it. Yet Kevin's message to people who watched everything unfold with their own eyes was that nobody does research and everyone chases clickbait. That's what he said to a community that streamed his Netflix roast in crystal clear HD. This wasn't some internet rumor that got out of hand. This wasn't a screenshot taken out of context. This wasn't a misleading clip cut to fool people. Audiences watched the show as it happened. They saw the jokes, they saw Kevin's reactions, they saw what made the broadcast and what didn't. And Kevin Hart's answer was basically to tell those same viewers, you didn't do your homework. But here's where the story takes another turn, because while Kevin was online talking about lazy thinking and clickbait culture, others started looking into what happened behind the scenes, and what they uncovered completely shifted the conversation. This was the detail that really made people stop in their tracks. This was the piece that turned a roast controversy into something much larger. As the producer of his own Netflix event, Kevin Hart reportedly had influence over the editing process. He was part of the team deciding what stayed and what got removed before the final version reached the audience. And reports surfaced claiming that 18 jokes were cut from the taped release. 18. Jokes involving Melania Trump were reportedly removed because they were viewed as too controversial and potentially upsetting to certain people. Jokes aimed at white women were also reportedly taken out. But the George Floyd joke remained. The lynching joke remained. Jokes involving dark-skinned black people remained. References to slavery remained. Comments comparing black people to monkeys remained. Jokes targeting black women remained as well. And critics argued that those choices reflected a deliberate decision that some groups deserved protection, while pain connected to black communities was considered acceptable for entertainment purposes.
Jokes of them joking about white people, about the Trumps. You removed them jokes, but you left them talking about us being black, our shade color, y'all, how dark we are. Us being slave, they joked about that. Us being referred to as monkeys, they joked about that. Okay, calling black women men, they talked about that. He didn't remove none of them jokes. But for the white women and for the Trumps, 18 jokes got removed for the tape version. For the tape version, 18 got removed. Jokes about Melania Trump, jokes, they decided, oh, that's just too much. We're not going to talk about her. It's too controversial. Or, she's too protected. Or they're going to get upset. They only cared about their people. But George Floyd joke, the slavery joke, the joke about us, oh, it stayed. Y'all better like this video and y'all better share, okay? It's time we gotta stick. Come on now. We got right is right. That one stayed. We stayed. Our joke stayed. That one made the cut. Yeah. The one that got your laugh and your broadcast to millions, Kevin, it was us. So don't tell us about comedians' autonomy when you're in the editing room deciding which jokes lived and which jokes died. You ain't tell that shit.
Kevin, why didn't you tell people that 18 jokes aimed at white people and the Trump family were reportedly taken out before the final version aired? Those jokes got removed, yet the jokes centered around black people, skin tone, and slavery were left untouched. There were jokes about that. There were references comparing black people to monkeys, and those made it through as well. There were jokes targeting black women, and those stayed too. None of those were reportedly cut, but when it came to white women and the Trumps, suddenly 18 jokes disappeared from the taped release. Jokes involving Melania Trump were apparently viewed as crossing the line. But the George Floyd joke, the slavery references, and the jokes aimed at black people remained in the special. And once people started connecting those dots, the comment section became impossible to ignore. More than 1,000 viewers were posting that Katt Williams had been right all along. More than 1,200 others were saying they had no interest in supporting Kevin Hart's next movie. These weren't random critics either. These were fans who had defended Kevin Hart for years, bought tickets to his shows, and spent countless hours streaming his Netflix specials. These were the same supporters who had gone back and forth with strangers online, arguing that Kevin Hart earned every bit of his success and influence. Yet those same voices were now flooding the comments with phrases like Uncle Ruckus, Boss Right Away, Massa, and saying Katt had been telling the truth from the start. And that's bigger than a social media moment. That's bigger than a trend that fades away after 2 days. That's what happens when a community feels truly let down. And what made it cut even deeper was what Kevin Hart did next.
You have to stop and walk around my kitchen before I could even finish reading this post, y'all. Kevin Hart, after all of this, after defending the joke, after calling us lazy, after saying truth doesn't matter, this man wrote, and I quote, P.S. New movie dropping this summer. He tagged his movie in the same spot where he's defending George Floyd jokes, where he's calling black people lazy for being hurt, where he's telling us we're running with clickbait about a man who got murdered.
This is the part that really stopped me in my tracks, y'all. This is the moment that had me pacing around the kitchen before I could even finish reading what was on my screen. Because after all of this, after defending the controversy, after accusing people of being lazy, after saying the truth no longer matters, Kevin Hart ended that message with something nobody expected. He wrote, P.S. A new movie dropping this summer. He actually promoted his movie in the same post where he was addressing backlash over George Floyd jokes, where critics felt he was dismissing black people for expressing pain, and where he was talking about clickbait surrounding the death of a murdered man. P.S. A new movie dropping this summer. Read that slowly and let it sink in. Kevin Hart addressed the controversy, questioned his critics, said the truth no longer matters, and then used that exact same Instagram post to advertise his upcoming film. And for many people, that was the point of no return. Not the roast itself, not the Breakfast Club appearance, not even the original Instagram comments about clickbait. It was that little PS at the end, because to many people it revealed how Kevin Hart viewed the very audience that supported him. Not as people whose emotions mattered, not as the community that helped turn him into a superstar, not as the fans who spent decades buying tickets, streaming specials, and defending him across social media. Instead, critics argued that he saw them as consumers, a demographic, and a customer base that could be criticized and then marketed to in the same breath. And that, according to many supporters of Katt Williams, is exactly what Katt had been trying to explain years earlier, in words people weren't ready to accept. Now, let's go back to Club Shay Shay, because what we're seeing today is why that interview has resurfaced in such a major way. Katt Williams didn't throw those comments at Kevin Hart for no reason. He wasn't simply being petty, bitter, or jealous like many people claimed at the time. He was talking about what he believed was a larger system and how Hollywood operates when it finds someone it considers valuable. Katt claimed that some of the roles that helped build Kevin Hart into a household name had first been offered to him, but he turned them down because he refused to go along with certain expectations. According to Katt, the industry then found someone who would say yes. And when you look back at the roast controversy through that perspective, some viewers believe the picture changes. As producer, Kevin Hart reportedly had the authority to remove any joke he wanted from the final version. He had the last word. Critics point out that this authority was exercised on jokes that could have upset powerful people or certain audiences, but they argue that the same approach wasn't used when it came to jokes involving black. Some people have gone as far as saying that Kevin Hart has become a puppet, and by that they mean they believe powerful figures are pulling the strings behind the scenes. They argue that whatever commitments or pressures exist in Hollywood, Kevin is too deeply connected to simply walk away. In their view, he's locked in. So they believe he's going to protect the interests of that side no matter what. They insist he hears the criticism. They believe he understands exactly where the community is coming from. But according to those critics, he feels obligated to defend a different team. And because of that, they say he will always bend in that direction. They argue that he's no longer speaking entirely for himself. Instead, they believe he's defending a system that allows him to continue operating at the highest levels of Hollywood. But here's the bigger picture. because this conversation goes far beyond Kevin Hart, The Roast, or one Netflix special. For 2 decades, Black audiences have been among the most loyal supporters in entertainment. They showed up for every Kevin Hart film, every stand-up special, and every major tour. They defended his name against critics who questioned his talent, and they helped turn him into one of the highest-paid entertainers in the world. But critics argue that when Kevin Hart reportedly had the opportunity to protect the dignity of that same community during the editing process, he made another choice. They believe he prioritized relationships that could offer greater access and influence in Hollywood. They argue that jokes involving Black pain stayed because they benefited the show, while material that might have upset more powerful circles was removed. And when Backlash followed, Kevin Hart accused critics of chasing clickbait, dismissed concerns as lazy thinking, and then promoted his movie in the very same message. Supporters of Katt Williams point to moments like this as proof of the system Katt described years ago, not through emotion, but through examples, specifics, and details. Yet at the time, many people called him crazy. And now, thousands of voices in Kevin Hart's phone comments section are pointing to who they believe saw it coming first. People are saying they understand perfectly, Kevin. They say they understand that 18 jokes were reportedly removed for the comfort of certain groups, while jokes connected to Black trauma remained. They understand being labeled lazy for expressing concern. They understand seeing a movie promotion attached to the same controversy. And many of them believe Katt Williams tried to warn everyone long before this moment arrived, but few were ready to hear him. But now they say they're listening. They're listening now. Some believe that's the phrase that should follow Kevin Hart throughout the promotion of his next film, every interview, every red carpet appearance, every talk show stop. Because supporters of Katt Williams believe he tried to sound the alarm years ago. The community brushed him aside, and now many believe Kevin Hart has publicly validated the concerns that once got Katt labeled bitter. In their eyes, he wasn't bitter, he was right. So drop your thoughts below. Do you believe Kevin Hart can bounce back from this controversy, or do you think the damage is permanent? And if this video spoke on issues you feel deserved attention, then you already know what to do.